following communique has just been issued by Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Force.
Under the command of General Eisenhower, Allied naval forces, supported by strong air forces, began landing Allied armies this morning on the northern coast of France.
People of Western Europe, the hour of your liberation is approaching. All patriots, men and women, young and old, have a part to play in the achievement of final victory. This landing is but the opening phase of the campaign in Western Europe. Great battles lie ahead. I call upon all who love freedom to stand with us now. Keep your faith staunch. Our arms are resolute. Together we shall achieve victory.
Mr. Chief Justice, Mr. Vice President, my friends, as I stand here today, having taken the solemn oath of office, in the presence of my fellow countrymen, in the presence of our God, I know that it is America's purpose that we shall not fail.
As Franklin Delano Roosevelt takes the oath of office on January 20th, 1945, he becomes the only president in American history to be elected to 4 terms. But despite this unprecedented achievement, there is relatively little fanfare in the streets of Washington. With the nation focused on the continuing war effort, Roosevelt cancels the traditional post-inaugural parade and evening celebrations. For more than 3 grueling years, FDR has led the nation in war. Now, it seems he is finally on the verge of leading America to victory. But as the Axis forces ramp up for a final defensive stand, the road to freedom will be grueling.
We Americans of today, together with our allies, are passing through a period of supreme test. It is a test of our courage, of our resolve, of our wisdom, of our essential democracy. If we meet that test successfully and honorably, we shall perform a service of historic importance which men and women and children will honor throughout all time.
In the Ardennes forest near the Belgium-German border, almost 250,000 German troops, spearheaded by 600 tanks, launch a surprise attack against the American lines. It is Hitler's desperate final offensive, his last chance to change the tide of a losing war. Thinly spread and undersupplied, the Americans are overwhelmed. Within days, the Germans push them back almost 40 miles, creating a bulge in the American lines. The Americans must hold the Germans until reinforcements arrive. But with severe winter storms setting in and temperatures dropping to below zero, the situation for the Americans goes from bad to worse.
Our eyes are all focused on the woods, our ears cocked for any sound of the enemy.
Boston native Rocky Blunt and the Army's 84th Infantry Division are occupying foxholes carved out of ice and snow. For days, they have succeeded in holding their positions against the Germans.
Our enemy isn't the Germans as much as it is the weather. It started snowing the day we got here, and it hasn't stopped since. I'm constantly covered with a blanket of snow and ice. It's so cold, I can't even breathe.
Blunt and many of the 600,000 troops fighting in the Ardennes forest and the Alsace region are wearing the same clothes they were in when they arrived in Europe back in the summer and fall months. While some Allied units received winter gear, others, like Blunt's, did not, due to shortages and miscommunication.
We don't have rubber overshoes. We don't have overcoats. We don't have gloves or scarves. When one of our men goes down, there's nothing else we can do. We strip our own dead. It's a very difficult thing to steal from a dead GI.
From a dead GI, an American. You never touched his watch, you never touched his wallet, you never touched anything personal. But anything that had been issued by the Army, you stripped him of it. Because you kept saying to yourself, the poor bastard, he doesn't need it anymore. I do. I've got to try and stay alive
another couple days. I can't help but wonder, when will it be my turn to be picked over? When will I be the next dead GI? All around me is the carnage of smashed and burned tanks. I can't believe it, but it looks like we're beating the Germans in the Ardennes.
"4 days after being medically evacuated from the front lines in Belgium's Ardennes forest, Rocky Blunt returns to the Army's 84th Infantry Division. While Blunt was recovering from a severe case of trench foot, the Americans launched a large counteroffensive against the Germans. As Allied air power struck the German supply lines, American units pushed north, while British units pushed south. In early January, Hitler began to withdraw his forces, and by the end of the month, the engagement, nicknamed the Battle of the Bulge, is declared over. It is the largest and costliest battle ever fought by the U.S. Army, with more than 19,000 American soldiers killed and over 60,000 captured or wounded. Despite the considerable losses, the surviving American forces are reinvigorated by the resounding victory. The Allies are ready for the final push into German territory.
There are no front lines anymore, no company or battalion boundaries, no safe or unsafe sectors. The Germans may be everywhere, but so are we. The tide's turned. Now we're on the offensive. The Germans are on the run. It's so close. We can feel it. We can practically smell the end of the war.
We expect to keep striking, to keep the enemy on the move, to hit him again and again, to give him no rest, and to drive through to that final objective, Berlin.
With Hitler's forces retreating, President Roosevelt travels to a Black Sea resort near Yalta in the Crimea. He is meeting with British Prime Minister Winston Churchill and Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin. The three Allied leaders are discussing plans for the final offensive against the Nazis. They release a joint statement reiterating their determination to accept nothing less than Hitler's unconditional surrender.
Of course, we know that it was Hitler's hope and German warlords that we would not agree, that some slight crack might appear in the solid wall of Allied unity. A crack that would give him and his fellow gangsters one last hope of escaping their just doom. But Hitler has failed.
We're bypassing more villages. The roads are less damaged. Signs that the Germans are in full retreat now. In every town, white flags and bedsheets are draped from the windows. Civilian resolve is collapsing, and the mighty German war machine is crumbling in our path.
Rocky Blunt and the 84th Infantry Division are moving eastward through German towns destroyed by Allied bombing raids. Along the way, they accept the surrender of entire battalions of German troops, no longer willing or able to fight.
They haven't eaten in 2 days, and they just want to go home. I translate for my captain, telling them if they walk to the rear of our lines and turn in all their weapons and maps, they'll get hot food. Then they can find their own way home. An outburst of emotion sweeps through their ranks. They start swarming over us with pictures of their wives, mothers, children. Some even try to hug us, or at least shake our hands. These men want no part
of the war. They wanted to give up as fast as they could with minimum problems. They were begging us for food. Most every one of us gave our food, whatever we had. They had absolutely nothing.
They're eager to go home. But I know they have no home to go to. Their towns have been reduced to rubble.